Hello, we are spotlighting a book called The Bad Apple. It's by Lancaster Hill. It is a Western, and it actually is subtitled A Novel of the Alamo. But the reason I selected this book, because it actually starts off in Ohio, and it is about Ohioan. Um, I am not sure if it's just based on a actual Ohioan or if it's fiction, completely fiction. Um, but it is about a man named John Apple, who is a gardener and preacher who lived a quiet life in Ohio, and he ends up going south to start over, which a lot of people did. They went south or west in history, and he ends up in the Alamo. And this, like I said, it is a paperback book, and it's a Western. It was copyrighted. It came out in 2020. It's not a huge book. It is around 340 pages. It's about average. And like I said, I kind of wonder when I saw it too, does it talk about, is it John Apple, is it Johnny Appleseed? But obviously not. But anyway, the story starts out, chapter 1, in Mansfield, Ohio, December 1834. John's story. For half the year, the hills and the farms are easy. The two fingers of the Mohican River were touched by God with fertility, as surely and whole hog as the rambunctious Adam and Eve. The town that grew there was just a fecund, producing farms, businesses, population, rapidly that first intrigued the local red men and then perplexed the alarmed men. I got there in 1832. I was in my 50s then, and a little less patient than I had been in my youth. No, maybe that's not the word. I was patient to watch things grow. I was unforgiving, that's a better word, unforgiving for things that grew bad. I could nurse blight or bugs from my plants, but that was a natural, God-created competition. What people do is rarely that. Where I lived before in Warren, Pennsylvania, was showing signs of smoky, noisy blight. Too many forges, too many mills, too much hammering, too many people hollering to be heard, too many horses complaining, too many cartwheels turning, too many youngsters shouting and crying and getting yelled at. Too much civilization. I worked on a sheep and goat farm nigh on the Allegheny River and wasn't attached to a thing but the earth. I would always stay out until sunset and took that moment to look west and admire what remained of the uncorrupted work of God. I would go to my shack then and read the good book by the failing light before joining my employers, the elderly Brandons, for supper in the main house. It was over apple pie one night that I announced my intentions to leave. I hadn't planned to say that. I hadn't even planned to go. It was just suddenly felt right. I waited till the replacement could be found and set out on a spring morning at dawn with just a rifle, my Bible, and a grain sack generously filled with the produce I had grown. It took me 6 months to arrive at where I didn't even know I was headed. I was meandering west, and Mansfield got in the way. I planted myself there for 2 reasons. First, the soil was so rich, I wept when I touched it. I swear if there were seeds, those tears would have grown them. It was like God had sent me a vision instructing me to work this land. Second, the good earth was the only sign of God in the region. Old people had dutifully built 2 churches, but few parishioners passed through their doors, and the parsons lacked enthusiasm. One of them told me he had agreed to this sinecure just to be close to Pittsburgh for when some aged clergyman there hung up his frock. I wanted to be in a real city, he told me, with real sin. Not sure how the padre meant that, but I decided to trust the calling and not the man. With more faith in planning, I elected to use what money I had saved to buy a small plot, plant my own fruits and vegetables, and use the unsteady old barn for Bible meetings. That is just the beginning of the book. It's called Bad Apple, and it is by Lancaster Hill. Again, it does start off in Ohio, in Mansfield, Ohio, with the character John Apple, but then it actually goes to the Alamo and into the Texas Revolution of 1836. So you've got a couple places to learn from. And I hope you enjoy the book. If you like Westerns, it'll be a new start. And I will see you next time.